Good evening and welcome to The Strand. I'm Christina Foxley, and I'm pleased to welcome M.L. Liebler and contributors to the book Working Words, Punching the Clock and Kicking Out the Jams. This anthology, recently named a 2011 Michigan Notable Book, features the voices of poets, rock stars, filmmakers, activists, novelists, and historians, some of whom are here tonight. I'll let our host introduce them in a moment. M.L. Liebler is the host of tonight's event. He is a poet, literary arts activist, and community organizer who teaches at Wayne State University. He was recently selected as Best Detroit Poet by the Detroit Free Press and Metro Times, and his many awards include a Patterson Poetry Prize for Literary Excellence and the 2010 Barnes & Noble Poets and Writers for Writers Award, an honor he shared with Maxine Hung Kingston and Juno Diaz. Following their readings, the participants will stick around to sign their book for you, which you can purchase downstairs on your way out of the store. Please join me in welcoming M.L. Liebler and friends to the Strand.
All right, settle down. Yeah. I don't know if I need this or not. Water. It's water and water. Well, thank you for coming, and I want to thank Christina and the Strand for having us here. I usually just shop here, but this is kind of nice. I will shop as soon as I'm done, so let's get this over with. What I just wanted to mention is that a little story briefly behind the book so you understand and know how it came together and what a special project it is, not because of me, but because of the people who are seated here who are in this book and their participation and their generosity with the publication of it. It was an idea that I had. I've been teaching, in addition to being a part of the English department at Wayne State, which Ed Hirsch was with us there for a number of years earlier in my career. Anyway, at the end of his career, but the beginning of my career. And so that's my home base for 31 years. But I've also for 20-some years taught a special labor studies class at Wayne State, which was uniquely subtitled Labor Through the Arts. And Marty Herman, and I don't know, Ed, if you remember Marty Herman, but he was one of the deans and professors at Monteith, and when that got shuffled around. He's kind of a legend at Wayne. He's retired now, but he created, I never knew who created this unique course that was called Introduction to Labor Studies, Labor Through the Arts. In that class, we looked at everything art related to the working class and to labor, organized labor, literature, that is, film, paintings, music, the whole thing. At that time, and really up until now, there had not been a book, so I had to Xerox most of the stuff that's in this book and bring it into the class. Now the people here who are authors never heard this before, but I would have to Xerox it and bring it in, and to share it with people. And then I thought, well, there's no book. There still's no book. Why don't I put one together? So I did put it together. And we got everything together. All of the authors participated gratis, everybody who's in that book. And that's why it's a special book. I don't think it could ever happen again quite this way. I wouldn't attempt to do a Working Words 2 just because of the feel and the spirit behind this particular book. It's kind of its own thing. And through various friends and people, everybody came, and there isn't one person they've asked me in interviews who was the hardest person to get. And there wasn't anybody. Everybody was generous, from Eminem to Eddie Hirsch to Maria Gillan to Barry Wallenstein, Quincy, Troupe, Lamont Zepto, Laura Boss. Everybody was happy to be a part of it, to celebrate the working class, which everybody here is from, myself included, and to preserve it. So there's still, and that was many years ago, the idea came, the book was put together, and then finally Coffee House published it just a few months ago. So I just wanted you to know that it is a unique book, and at the Strand price, I'm going to buy a few copies too. That's just a perfect. So I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3. We can count on how many here sold. So what we'll do, and what we usually do at these, is the people who are present. We've been doing them from California, San Francisco, all the way to New York, and all points in between. Is the people in that region, or tonight from the New York area, they'll read their entry from the poem. And we'll kind of, flip things maybe and start backwards with it. I should mention Dave Marsh wanted to be here. He just emailed. He is from Detroit originally, and he lives in Connecticut. I know that's close to here, they tell me. Close enough that he can drive. But he had to stay home. They couldn't get a babysitter and all that kind of stuff. And Al Cooper, who knows, he might be downstairs shopping, and he'll pop up here because his big birthday party's tomorrow at B.B. King's. So we'll start with Lamont Zepto. He's been up in the New York area, but he's a Philadelphia poet, a very fine Philadelphia poet. Award-winning and a number of books, and a new one that he's working on right now. And his entries are fantastic. People have commented. Lamont doesn't know that because he isn't with me where I go to all these. But many people have commented on both of his pieces and written about both of his pieces in the book. Please welcome from Philadelphia, PA, Lamont Zepto.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. And again, thanks to ML for his perseverance, because initially Wayne State University was supposed to publish this manuscript. And he had to persevere for at least, 4 years or so before and believe in this. So this exists a great deal because of his perseverance and his spirit to see it published. So we should give him a nice round of applause for that. As ML said, I've been in the New York area for the last 4 days. I came up here Monday to hear Ishmael read from his new novel, Juice, at Tribe's Gallery. And then while I was up here and checking my email, I found out that I was listed to be in this reading, so there you have it. And yesterday was my 62nd birthday. And so this is my first official reading as a senior citizen. I'd like to read one short piece from my journal before I read my contribution from the anthology. And for those of you who don't know, February 1st was Langston Hughes' birthday. It would have been his 111th birthday or something. And so both Langston and I are both Aquarians. Harvest the moonlight. They say the ancestors of Africans lived beneath the sea. They say the ancestors of Africans lived beneath the sea. Imagine a universe of spirits in marketplaces of the vanished. Imagine entire villages just as they were on earth, humming with the sounds of the living. Imagine the children's games, the children's names. They say the ancestors of Africans live beneath the sea. Our oceans, their sky. The rhythmic roll of waves to shores, a quantum physics of metaphysical math, deep black thought of mysterious equations. Monthly, these spirits harvest the moonlight. It's all the food they need. Okay, my mother raised 4 of us with the help of extended family. And she worked in the homes of rich white people. And this first piece I'm going to read is called Day Worker. And it's about, I wrote this when I was 22 years of age. And the first place it was celebrated was in an anthology that Maria Gillan was kind enough to publish it in, called Unsettling America. And I gave this piece, I had just returned from Vietnam, And I gave this piece to my mother, and she read it, and then we just stared in each other's eyes. And much of her life would be spent on her knees in white folks' kitchens, or with her back to the sun, with huge windows across her thighs, feet dangling inside, hands full of damp, wet newspaper shining the thick glass. But she would leave these mansions, these out to the houses, as she called them. She would leave them with shopping bags full of old clothes, unwanted food. Yes, she would leave with this and think how kind these white people were. She would take these gifts back with her to her third-floor home and teach her sons how to be gentle. How to be gentle. Mama, after all those cold winters, after all those hot summers, after all those years of your life you gave to those white people for our sake, how can it be that you could teach us to be gentle? Do you know what that has cost me, Mama? Do you know how many streets I've walked? Do you know how many times I've cried? Do you know the madness I've endured? And when buses weren't running because of snow or strike, she would walk. She would bundle up in old clothes and new clothes. She would keep her son home from school so she could wear his boots. She would wear the majority of her meager wardrobe to keep warm. She would keep her daughter from work so she could wear her overcoat. But she would go. She would walk. She would freeze, but she'd go to do her floors, her dusting, her wall washing. She would go. She'd be one of many of this race of black women who would walk or limp or shuffle on frostbitten feet. Feet full of corns because they never wore shoes meant for them. Feet swollen by dampness, cellar dampness. Feet wore out, walked out, used up feet. Feet only kept going by hot salt baths at night and corns trimmed by razor blades. These were the feet of this army of women who were day workers to survive. The years would pass and the faces would sag. The breasts become limp and rest on bellies, the feet more grotesque and misshapen, the hands gnarled and rough, the hair grayer and grayer, the back more and more painful, the teeth fewer and fewer, but still they would go. They would go until they died of sunstroke on some hot summer afternoon with the heavy windows across their thighs, or their high blood pressure would kill them as they scrubbed some kitchen floor and they fell face first in the soap suds, or they would complain of headaches and backaches for a week or so and then one day go home and die. But they would go and do these same windows and same floors year after year. This was what they were caught in, this vicious trap. With every swipe of the mop, one more dream would be forgotten. One more hot, cold rush of youth, used up, dried out, dusted off, hung up, put away, forever, forever, forever. My second piece is a piece called Seamstress, which is was written for a woman named Guadalupe Leon. And ironically, her son just passed away last January at the age of 56. I first met Juan Antonio Leon when he was 19 at college. He never finished college, but his mom he used to take me to his house, and his mother would feed me. And she used to always comment on how much food I could eat. And this is about her life. It's called Seamstress. She stitched for years on machines the whir in her ears forever. The needle a blur, a blinding blur. She stitched and sewed and stitched,